and welcome to the On the Whistle podcast. My name is Alistair Howard. Today we are talking all things DRC in our AFCON preview series. But before we get into it, I just wanted to ask, make a bit of an appeal for our listeners, our viewers. If you guys are enjoying this, it means so much to us, who are putting all the podcasts together. We love doing this at the On the Whistle podcast, but it would mean so much to us if you could share both our YouTube and our audio podcasts as far and as wide as you can. Give us a follow on social media, OTW_podcast on Twitter and Instagram, and On the Whistle podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever you get your audio podcast. It means so much to us, spreading the message, spreading the love we have for African football. So if you do enjoy it, please drop us a follow, a share, a like, retweet, whatever it is you can. We really appreciate it. But without any further ado, we'll get into DRC. Elisha Iragi, the journalist, joins me to talk all things Leopards, how they might do at this AFCON, why there's a lot of hope in Sebastien Desabre and his team, and just who is the Congolese Messi. Welcoming our first, and we were chatting about this before, that this is our first ever Congolese guest on the Whistle podcast, which is a great kind of embarrassment from our perspective. We've interviewed Peli Radakampanzu, but we're waiting for that interview to come out. So this is our first piece of Congolese content, and it's Elisha. Elisha, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Alistair. I'm doing very well, and I'm happy to open the road for Congolese people. We really like football here, and we really like to share that we have in common with people in the world, and especially in Africa. So to talk about the African Cup of Nations is a great pleasure for me as a person, but as a young too, because we need to connect with many peoples over there. So it's a way to share our thoughts, to share our news here, and that's very great. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, no worries. And it's probably our biggest shame on the podcast. We've had almost 40 of the countries represented on the podcast, but DRC is definitely the biggest one coming into it. But Elisha, it feels like it's been a long time since DR Congo has been an AFCON team. Obviously, you weren't at the 2021 AFCON, which was a shame to see such a kind of historied and kind of storied country like yourselves to not be there. What is the mood in the country going into the tournament, making your comeback in Cote d'Ivoire?
If I can take the title of a very good movie that I like, we are in the mood for hope now. It means that when Sebastien Desabre comes a year ago, the teams was very, very bad. The level was low because the president's manager, Hector Cooper, wasn't in a good form with players, with team, and the result was very bad. DR Congo was the last in the group. They had, I think, 1 or 2 points, and the hope to see them at AFCON was literally dead. So when he comes, Sebastien Desabre, there was not much hope, but his project was to target the World Cup 2026 in Mexico, United States, and Canada, because there was not much hope. But a game after another, he built a team. He has a start 11 to start with. Some players get back in the team, like Bakambu, who was retired for a time. And there was like a good mood, and team began to take another level. And particularly the bad mood was because teams DR Congo was so much closer to go to the World Cup, and things fell apart against Morocco. And after that, the mood was very bad. But now teams won matches again, and that's bringing, I can say, kind of hope. Team is getting to win matches. They take a ticket to Ivory Coast, and now they're targeting another biggest achievement, like to go to World Cup. So that is the mood here. The second part of my response can be about the local league, Linafoot, because it was last 10 years one of the best in Africa, one of the 5 or 3 best in Africa. But the league is losing his shape for the reason that his financial structures was never be good enough for a long-term project. So there was some teams like Mazembe and Vita, teams that have owner who was richer, Moise Katumbi and Amisi Tangofor, but these teams loses that financial structure, and teams begin to lose the ability to win competition, to be competitive on the continent. So the league also have very few sponsor, and all that have an impact on the level of the league. So the league is not every years organized. For example, on two last years, the league was cut off before the end of the season, and all of that has consequences is that there is no local players in the national league, and there is not a local teams on the stages of African Championship or African League Champions League. So that is the overview of what is the shape now is here in the DR Congo. But the word for the national team is that there is again a hope.
That's so interesting, and it's very relevant, obviously, because Moise Katumbi is involved in the presidential elections coming up in DR Congo. So kind of him ties in very well with the flagging support of TP Mazembe, as well as the rest of the Linafoot League. And it is such a shame, like you say, TP Mazembe and AS Vita, but Mazembe in particular, have been one of the most successful clubs on the continent. Yeah, we were talking earlier about this tension of bringing local versus international based players, but I wanted to talk to you about the new head coach Sebastien Desabre, because it's quite interesting that you're saying he's done so well, because one of the things that we've talked a lot about on the podcast and is about the growth of African managers, and how that this AFCON there's more African managers than there's ever been. And obviously, Congo have one of the best examples of an elite African manager in Florent Ibenge, who obviously did so well with Congo, but has also, seen success with Barkhane and Al Hilal and as AS Vita as well. Was there a sense of skepticism when Desabre came in, and kind of, like you said, how did he do it in terms of developing, the hope? Because like you said, DRC was DR Congo was at absolute floor after that World Cup qualifier, after missing out on the last AFCON. Things looked so dark, and as you say, the league football has not been in a great place. What has he done to actually bring about the kind of resurgence in the team and in the country?
A great question, Alasdair. So the first point is that Sebastien Desabre is not only the manager, but he's like, in French we call him sélectionneur manager. So there is not a person to manage the team in kind of how to organize things, and just him to call the players. But he took the two responsibilities. He call players and he organize how things is around the team, and that's a big difference because. And the second thing, that he's in Kinshasa, he lives in DR Congo. The past one, Hector Cooper didn't live in DR Congo, so he just comes when there is a game or there is a break, a FIFA break, and after that he goes. So there was a problem in the structure, and one of option that FECOFA urged all candidates to replace Hector Cooper was that the coach must live in Congo. So he lives here. He's manager and he calls player. And after that, Congolese people knows who was Sebastien Desabre, because in the AFCON 2019 in Egypt, Congo meets Uganda, and Uganda beat DRC with Sebastien Desabre 2-0. So since then, there was kind of knowledge of who was Sebastien Desabre. And as press, we go and crack down who was that man who comes so young, but with a much experience on the continent. He was in Egypt, he was in other countries, he gained trophies on the continent, so he knows what is Africa. And if you compare his profile with Hector Cooper was never just one time in Africa, and he was not connected with local reality. For example, he was never at a stadium to look at the game. So when Sebastien Desabre arrives, he decided to take the team in his own hands. Communication, how players was the encampment or organization around the team. He took all these aspects and beginning to organize, to communicate well, to create a kind of peace and good mood around the team. And the other big thing that he accomplished is to begin negotiating or to communicate with players who early refused to come to DRC because of lack of organization. And this player include Simon Banza, who is now the top scorer in Portugal League. This player involved Silas Katompa, who is at Stuttgart. He was a very last season, but he was he got an injury and now he's returning. This player includes in near future maybe Aaron Wan Bissaka, who comes to play with DRC. So he get in the ground. He beginning to speak with these players who can bring potential to the team. He initiates a kind of discussion, a very deep discussion with the major player who was here. The first one who comes to my mind is Chancel Mbemba, who took a very important role in the team. And every time when Sebastien Desabre talk about Chancel Mbemba, you know that he gave him a respect that he deserved. And all that can say climate create a good team, and boys wanted again to play for their manager, and result comes because to say true, DRC never lack of talent. DRC many times have a lack of organizations. But now I think, and on another point, but not a few one, is that FECOFA was changed in many things. Constant Omari goes because he was the like for 20 years, I don't know, 20 or yes, I think 20 years, and he was replaced, and other people comes with another ideas of working, and all of that begin to give some confidence to the team to reorganize things, and it's a process because Sebastien Desabre is targeting the World Cup, and this Africa Cup of Nations is like a big surprise. I can tell you that here in DRC, many was losing their faith to see the DRC at the AFCON, but things happen here, and it's a country like a miracle happens every 10 years, or every competition there is a miracle, like the medal of bronze that teams occurs with Florent Ibenge. It was absolutely a surprise.
And yeah, I love that it was a surprise, because obviously, DRC qualifying, you were in the one group that coming into the last round of fixtures, any team could get through. You guys, Sudan, Mauritania, I think Libya as well. Sorry, Gabon. And obviously you must be sick of the sight of Sudan and Mauritania, because of course you're with them again in the World Cup qualifier. So you seem to only play those two teams, and likewise they must be sick of playing you guys. But I love that and again we're talking about this idea that for so long it's felt like African football, AFCON football, but even CAF club competitions, it's been the place of secondhand European coaches. A European coach doesn't do well in Europe, he comes to Africa, whereas now, with the rise of local-based coaches who've done so well, now if you are going to be coming from abroad, you like the sub, you have to be fully invested. You have to be in the nation, and we see that with the type of managers that are now, being hired. Like Tom Samphiet is another great example. The Gambia, he put in a lot of work to be there on merit, and player, and Hubert Velud, who obviously had a lot of experience, with national teams and club teams around the continent before taking the Burkina Faso job. And so I love that. And you talk about one of the things that's made this team good is that settled kind of system, and particularly defensively. DRC, we've seen the kind of this back five really coming into play the last few games with Mbemba sitting in the back with Kayembe, Kalulu, and Baka. But my question is, tactically going into the AFCON, looking at the team itself, because you mentioned it there, where you have a very settled defensive structure, and then you've got these 5 or 6 incredibly talented attacking players. I mean, how do you think the team is going to line up, particularly in those forward positions? Because obviously, like you mentioned, you've got Banza, who's doing so well at Braga, Vumpa, who's Silas, who's at Stuttgart. But then, on top of that, you've got your Jackson Mulekas, Johan Wissa, Cedric Bakam, who's come back, even Fistin Maele, who's arguably the best center forward in club football and on the continent with Yanga last season, all vying for those attacking spots. How is he going to manage to put together this team that's both defensively coherent, but also has kind of patterns of play and is an attacking team?
A very important question, because for me it's obvious that the major problem that have Sebastien Desabre is to construct his first 11. If you look on the games that he wins, there is not a first one that is going, that you can identify that uh, this one is what he used to play. He changed every time. I wrote the thing, a piece for Footer. They say it was my thought when I say that the big problems or the big error that commit Sebastien Desabre on the game against Sudan, it was to want it was that wish to give time to every players that was coming, because like Banza was on his first or two selections. So Sebastien Desabre is going to be trapped for me. That is a trap, because when he calls international players who plays for the big leagues, the deal is that they must have time to play. So if they must have that time on AFCON, it can be very challenging to have the 11 to begin with. But we have some certainty, like the place of the keeper. Since many games now, Lionel Mpasi have taken that place. It's for him, absolutely. And he was an outstanding game against Sudan in African Cup of Nations. And that was a very good game for me. That the game that confirmed he was the chosen. It was him, as we say on social media. It's him. So that was his place. Another one place that is confirmed is about Chancel Mbemba in the heart of the defense, because it's for my opinion, the point on which the team is based. We can take another player is Arthur Maswaku in the defense, but the problem with Maswaku is that he is really regularly injured, so we don't know exactly if he will be there. Another player who is confirmed, and I think perhaps he just come in for the last few breaks, FIFA breaks, but is Charles Piquel. He plays in Cremonese in Italy. He's taking a form in the midfield. Another player who will be present for me, and that is not a question at all, but is very challenging, because there are two players who change every time. It's or Theo Bongonda, who plays now in Spartak Moscow. He's just a very creating person, and he's very lovely, popular. And here in Kinshasa, special people calls him Congolese Messi, because he very enjoyed player to see. So it's even Meshak Elia or Theo Bongonda. The places for me is confirmed. Another player who have his place confirmed is Silas Katompa, but as he is new, I don't know exactly how much confidence the coach will put in him. So, and there is a basico Cedric Bakambu who is there. He has much experience. Another player in the midfield, I can say, is Mutusami, because Mutusami is a very present player, and surprisingly, he never plays an AFCON with DRC, so that will be his first one. And after so many years of works, I think it's important for him to have a place. So there is some certainty, but on other places, it's like if Wan Bissaka comes, you guess that he will not be on the bench, so he'll plays and he'll take a place either for Kayembe or another one. And Kakuta can have his place, but it will depend on what system will use the coach. Because if he have a system where Bongonda and Kakuta can play, it can be some confusing or that there's two are creating players. So in which system he can play, there's still much question on that. And sadly, or maybe we will have response on the two games that Congo can play in Abu Dhabi, where they will prepare the AFCON. Maybe we can have some response on this game if some lineup will return. But for now, there is not a solid response on which will be his lineup for the AFCON.
I think that there's. It seems like Congo in December has more of a selection headache than most nations coming into it. But it's exciting. Now I want to talk about the group you're heading into because it is gonna. I think for me this is probably the most exciting group. Maybe not the group of death, but the most exciting because you have Morocco, and for better or for worse, Morocco will be the heavy favorites coming into the AFCON. Obviously, they had the World Cup experience. They have a very more settled team now. With Regrat Gay's had more than a year now to get settled in his job, and obviously they've done brilliant things. But then you've got, and this is very very rare for any tournament, you've got three neighbors all in the same group. You've got DR Congo, Tanzania, and Zambia, and is there a sense, particularly with Tanzania, because you're speaking about how the local league Linafoot has been so poor in DRC, and on the flip side, the TPL has been fantastic, in terms of the way it's developed in Tanzania, and a lot of the Congolese guys who would have been playing for locally for Vita or Mazembe or some other local teams have moved over to Tanzania, and actually Tanzania seems to be the hub of Congolese football players. Is there an excitement in the nation that you're going to be playing two of your neighbors? Is there a rivalry? Like, what is the sense in terms of playing both Zambia and Tanzania?
Absolutely, there is a much excitement because the border is so close. People going and people make some many exchanges with people, with friends from Tanzania and from Zambia. Here in Lubumbashi, we eat regularly foods from Zambia, so there is much connections. But the point is that in the region, Congo still, and that even his bad form recently, Congo still the giant in that region. Two Africa Cup of Nations. Zambia has just won in 2012. So Congo had that kind of fierté, I can say, a kind of self-esteem to say that when I play Tanzania, even I'm not better than the team, I'm the giant and I have to assume that position. And that kind of fierté can bring an epic games. It's like the full two game against Congo Brazzaville in the 2013. They had a good team if you look on the form on that AFCON. But when they placed DRC, the derby, the prestige, Congo took the advantage in a very sensational game where they turned down 0-2 to 4-2. So for me, it's important to maintain on that point that DRC have kind of prestige that they have to preserve. And if you look on Tanzania, many players there are local players. So DRC is building and kind of international players. There is not much coherence, but there is a much level and talent on side like Tanzania. On Zambia, I have some skepticism because Zambia are in dark now, but they are bringing a team that is focused on a striker. I forget his name, but he's playing very very well. So for me, the first game will be against Morocco. And honestly, I don't think that they will have much than 1 point if they are very, very well. But as I said, DR Congo still a team with much surprise. They can do very well against Egypt, and the next match they lost against Eswatini. So you never know what to wait for a DRC team. But for me, in global of the group, if they reach in that AFCON quarterfinals, I think it will be a good competition for them because it was so desperate, and to reach quarterfinal can be a very good result. So the match, the game against Zambia will be very determined because after that they will play Morocco. And if they have a good result against Zambia, it can be very promising. And you know what? Here in the country, if the team just won one game, people will begin to dream of the trophy, to be euphoric, and all people will be around this or behind this television and to push the team to. A government will send people there with another plane. So things is never systemic here. Things always been like natural. Things is coming. If they want, people are getting more and more charmed, and things can be very very good. But just for to notice that the two cups that DR Congo won in 68 and 74 was with local players. That's still a major record. So will this generation do more? I don't think so, honestly, but because I know that the really target in the World Cup. So this competition is like a sort of preparation in repetition, I can say, to prepare more interesting things in the future.
There's so much to unpack there. I love that you're talking about how kind of we're playing Tanzania, we're playing Zambia. There's a rivalry there, but we know who's the top dog. We know who's the big country. We know the one who's gonna come out on top. And let me tell you, I've already done my interview with the Tanzanian, and he was saying similar stuff in terms of he's saying Tanzanians are so excited because they're ready for that upset. They're ready to beat DR Congo because they're one team, and especially for Tanzanians, Kenya's not there, Uganda's not there, Rwanda's not there, Burundi's there. DRC is the only team there that they're competing with from kind of that region of the world, and even like I love what you're saying about kind of the unpredictability of DR Congo. And even as soon as the fixture list came out, the groups were drawn. Saying that the most exciting game of the group stage for me has to be that first game between you guys and Zambia because like you say in DR Congo, you never know what to expect. You never know whether they're gonna come crashing out of the group stage or they're gonna make it to the semifinals. And likewise, like you mentioned, this Zambia team is so exciting. They'll concede 2 goals, but they'll score 4. And players, like Fashion Sakala, Pat Ndaka, they have Kennedy Musamba. They're similar to you guys in that they have so much attacking talent, and it feels inevitable that there's going to be a lot of goals, and I'm really excited for that. And so you're saying, yeah, I mean, I know you're saying quarterfinals would be a huge success for DR Congo, and like you're saying again, this idea that momentum is so important. You get that first win, the nation is suddenly behind you. What would for the country coming into this? What would the expectations be? I know you're saying quarterfinals would be a great tournament, but what are the expectations? Is it you said things have been so low. Is this a country expecting you to get knocked out in the group stage, or is there expectation that you'll move and reach the latter stages?
As the teams qualifying for the AFCON, for DRC to return home just after playing a group stage will be a very great disappointment because there is so much hope after qualification. And the last time when DRC was eliminated in the group stage, if I'm not bad, was in 2004 in a group of Tunisia, Rwanda, and Guinea, I think.
Did it
So
not also happen in 2013? Right? Was it 2013? Because you drew, was it not funny in 2013 you drew all three
Yes, I
games?
think we draw against Mauritania. We
Yeah.
had 3 points, I think. Yes.
And
So,
then in 2015 you drew all three games, but then got to the semifinals. That's the funny thing.
yeah. So DRC many times when you look when they reach the AFCON, they go farther than the group stage. They have that quality to take maybe 4 point just one games. They lost one game. What the major games? They took 1 point and they won a last game where they will fight like lions, like leopards. So I think the expectations here are the team to reach a level of quarterfinals because it will be 2 phases after the group stage. And if they can surprise, if they can bring some kind of quality there, why not? But if you look at the challengers in the other groups, the pretenders, they are so big, they are so good prepared for the competition. So a quarterfinal level will be a very good result, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Elisha, thank you so much for speaking to us. As with all our experts, our journalists, our players we've been speaking to, we finish off with a quick fire round of questions. So it's I'm looking for quick answers, not too many thoughts. I want one country, one player name. So let's start with uh, who coming into this tournament is DR Congo's most important player, best player.
Best player on the pitch for me is Theo Bongonda, and special because he began to score goals. That was his major point of improvement, and now he began to do that. So for me, the important player to create chances to score goals is Theo Bongonda.
How could it be anyone else? He's the Congolese Messi. It has to be him. And coming into this and coming into this, you have quite a lot of kind of big names, experienced players, like you're saying, the likes of Bakambu, Chancellor, and Bemba. Who is the one young guy coming through this team that you think could be break out at this tournament, and who we should all be keeping an eye on?
A young one. It's a squad where many players have a big experience. Can I talk about a young one? I think on Karim Kimbouidi, but since many years he's not called in the national team. Sadly, the coach still doing his list, and before to check that list, it's kind of difficult to have a name, especially because it's a team that have very experienced players. If you look on other sides, every side there is a one experienced player. So, but I can talk about Silas Katompa because it will be his first international competition with the DRC. He's one of youngest in the team. So for me, Silas Katompa. Meshakelia already plays in Europe. Maybe if he play very well, it can be just a stage, but he is on 27 years, so he's not so young.
Mishak Elia, who obviously who's famous for scoring that sensational goal against Manchester City earlier in the Champions League group stage. All right, we've got your best player, youngster to watch, and now the hard one. I know you said quarterfinals is a good result, but Elisha, I want you to predict how far in the tournament do you see DR Congo making it?
If I look just mathematically, I think on the next stage after the group stage, because if you are second behind Morocco, the next element will be a very great one. It's like we can play maybe South Africa or Tunisia. So for me, that's a very challenging. So for me, clearly, it defines the phase of how do you call it?
I think it's round of
16.
16. Yeah.
Yes, round of 16. Yes, for me. But the good result can be a surprise on round of 16 and to go in the quarter.
Okay. Okay. And who, if DRC is going out in the round of 16, maybe quarterfinals, who is going to win the tournament?
Who's gonna win the tournament? For me, there is two important teams. The first one is clearly Senegal because they are the title they have the title. Senegal is still an important team, but dangerously, Morocco are getting closer and closer to become the best Africa nation in Africa. They took the award on the last CAF Award 2023. Morocco is a very complete team. So for me, it will be Senegal or Morocco, the two ones.
Elisha, I told you I need one country. Give
One
me
country,
Senegal or Morocco. Give me one.
I think Morocco.
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 Okay,
Only
it's a
Morocco.
hard one. It's a hard one, but Morocco it is. All right, and who is going to be the top scorer at the tournament?
Top scorer, AFCON always produce a prize on top scorers. They never be Mohamed Salah. I think about if Zambia can do a good competition, Patson Daka can be a good surprise. For me, he's very matching well competition in national side and club side. So I think to Patson Daka, many stars regularly they deceive when they play for national team. So
Absolutely, I
why
like it.
Patson Daka? But if it's Patson Daka, that means DRC will
It's
be
not good for
eliminated.
DRC. Exactly. So hopefully not. All right. So Patson Daka is going to be the player of the tournament. Morocco are going to win it. Who is going to be the player of the tournament, the best player at the tournament?
The best player of the tournament. That is a very tough question. If Morocco wins the competition, for me, and historical, it can be for the first time a goalkeeper because Yassine Bounou is doing very very well on the next the big stage, but I don't know why, but keepers has not this kind of reconnaissance for him. If Morocco wins the competition, I think Bono will be the best player of the tournament.
I love it. That's a left field one, but I love it. And Yassine Bonu, who obviously had a brilliant World Cup and was sensational for Sevilla in the Europa League run and is doing well. And now that he's in Saudi, I think that's a good shout. Elisha, thank you so much for joining the podcast. We really appreciate your insight, your expertise. After speaking to you, we have to get more and more Congolese guys on as much as possible.